We're not too far away now from the beginning of season 2022 of America's premier open-wheel championship, the NTT IndyCar Series. 2021 is regarded as one of the most exciting seasons in the recent history of the sport as young gun Alex Palou took the Drivers' Championship. That, of course, wasn't the full story. From the first 7 races, we had 7 different winners and 9 different winners across the 16 events. It is, of course, expected that this incredible momentum will be carried into the 2022 season. So, it's now time to preview what is sure to be another very exciting year of IndyCar racing. Let's start with the calendar, shall we?
The season opens on the streets of St. Pete on the 27th of February before heading over to Texas Motor Speedway on March 20th. Then it's the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach on April 10th, before a very busy month of May. On the 1st of May, the IndyCar circus heads to Barber Motorsport Park before heading to the Brickyard. First up, it's the road course race on the 14th, before the 106th running of the Indianapolis 500 on the 29th. June is a slightly quieter month before a fairly stacked July. On the 5th of June, it's the Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix at Belle Isle, which is actually being held there for the last time before the Detroit Grand Prix heads back to the Renaissance Center for the first time since 1991. That race will be followed by Road America on the 12th of June. Moving on to July, which sees 5 races held at 4 different venues. On the 3rd of July, it's the race at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. On the 17th of July, IndyCar heads over the border to Canada to race on the streets of Toronto for the first time in 2 years. The 23rd and the 24th of July sees a doubleheader at Iowa for the first time since 2020. And on the 30th of July, there's going to be another race on the Indianapolis Road Course, and we'll be sharing the weekend with both the NASCAR Cup and Xfinity Series. After a crazy running of the event in 2021, Nashville will once again be hosting the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix on the 7th of August, before a fan favourite, Gateway, on the 20th. On September 4th, it's the Grand Prix of Portland, before the championship finale at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca on the 11th of September. 17 races, 5 on the streets, 5 oval races, 7 road courses. The theatres of wheel-to-wheel warfare have been determined.
Now it's time to go over the gladiators who will be doing battle again this year and the armies that they will be fighting for. It's time for the teams and drivers that will be taking on this year's IndyCar season. We'll make our way through some of the smaller teams before making our way up to the absolute powerhouses of the sport.
We start with car number 77, the lone Juncos Hollinger racing car, which is the only one-car team in the field. Juncos are entering their first full-time season of IndyCar racing, and despite only being a small team, there is actually quite a lot to talk about here. Over the off-season, it was announced that Carlin had ended their IndyCar program, and that Juncos had purchased all of the team's IndyCar assets. Juncos have also entered a technical alliance with the famous feeder series team. Their driver is Callum Ilott, a member of the Ferrari Driver Academy and the F2 runner-up in 2020. Ilott turned his focus stateside in the latter part of 2021, running 3 races with the Juncos team as part of a recent trend of a considerable number of ex-F1 and F2 drivers moving to IndyCar. It'll be interesting to see what this outfit can do this year. Moving on to Dreyer and Reinbold Racing, who are only contesting the Indianapolis 500, but are still bringing 2 cars. This team is a local Indianapolis team, and since 2014, they have only ever participated in IndyCar races in their home state, contesting the Indy 500, but also making occasional appearances at the road course events. Sage Karam will be driving car number 24, having had his best finish at the Indy 500 in 2021 with a 7th place finish, and he'll be joined by one of the most controversial drivers of the last few years, Santino Ferrucci in car number 23. Dale Coyne Racing have downsized to a 2-car operation for 2022 and have had a complete driver lineup overhaul. In the number 51 Dale Coyne Racing with Rick Ware Racing Machine, 2-time Indy 500 winner Takuma Sato will be taking over the car once driven by Romain Grosjean, while rookie David Malukas, the 2021 Indy Lights runner-up, will be driving the number 18 HMD Motorsports partnered car. Moving on to Ed Carpenter Racing. This team was one of only 2 teams to win a race in 2021 outside of the Andretti, Penske, Ganassi or McLaren Schmidt-Peterson stables. The driver who won that race was Rinus VeeKay, and he'll once again be driving car number 21 for the team. He'll be joined by Connor Daly in car number 20, and Ed Carpenter himself will be contesting the Indianapolis 500 in a third car. Now it's time for Rahal Letterman Lanigan. Unsurprisingly, Graham Rahal is still behind the wheel of the number 15. However, the 30 car, once driven by Takuma Sato, will now be driven by Christian Lundgaard. Now, as we previously discussed, Lundgaard is another driver part of a recent batch of expats to make their way over to the States to race in IndyCar. At the tail end of 2021, Lundgaard raced at the Indianapolis road course with RLL and will now be driving for them full time. The car Lundgaard drove that day was car number 45, which will now be driven by Jack Harvey, who has moved over from Meyer Shank Racing. Speaking of Meyer Shank Racing, they'll now be running 2 full-time cars, and they are bringing quite the lineup to the show. Moving over from Team Penske is 2016 IndyCar champion and 2019 Indianapolis 500 winner Simon Pagenaud in car number 60. And in car number 06, it's 4-time Indy 500 winner and also defending Indy 500 winner Helio Castroneves. Between May of 2021 and January this year, Meyer Shank Racing have won 2 of the biggest motor races in the US, winning the Indy 500 in 2021 and very recently winning the Rolex 24, the latter being a squad that Castroneves and Pagenaud were both a part of. It seems that Meyer Shank are slowly but surely rising as a new powerhouse in American motorsport, and they're sure to be a force to be reckoned with in 2022. We do have another potential rising star joining the field in 2021, but in order to talk about him, we first need to sift through some contextual objective mediocrity, so to speak. AJ Foyt have had a bit of a driver lineup shake-up for 2022. Charlie Kimball and Sebastian Bourdais are both gone. Dalton Kellett is driving for the team in car number 4 once again, and Tatiana Calderon will be making her IndyCar debut and contesting a part-time season, sharing her car with a yet-to-be-announced second driver in car number 11. Now, putting this kindly, illustrious as an adjective to describe their respective racing careers wouldn't exactly be suitable. However, AJ Foyt may have found themselves a shining star. Rookie Kyle Kirkwood will be driving car number 14 for the full season, and in his junior career, he has been a winning machine. In 2021, he won 10 out of 20 races in the Indy Lights and won the championship, and it's been a fairly similar story for the vast majority of his racing career so far. Watch out for him in 2022.
Now we're going to be moving on to what is essentially the big 4 of IndyCar racing these days.
We'll start with Arrow McLaren Schmidt-Peterson. In the short 2 seasons since McLaren linked up with Arrow Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports, the team has already become a championship contender. Pato O'Ward, who will once again be driving car number 5 for the team, took the championship fight to the final round in Long Beach before losing out, being turned on the first lap. Expect him to be on the hunt once again this year. He will also be joined by Felix Rosenqvist, who will now be behind the wheel of the number 7 car full-time, unlike last year. Finally, the two will be joined by Juan Pablo Montoya, who will be driving car number 6 at the Indy Road Course race and in the Indianapolis 500. Up next is Team Penske. Penske has downsized from 4 to 3 cars for this season. Other than the departure of Simon Pagenaud, the lineup remains unchanged. 2-time IndyCar champion Joseph Newgarden is still behind the wheel of the number 2. 3-time Supercars champion Scott McLaughlin is now entering his second full-time season after winning Rookie of the Year. Personally, I'm expecting a lot more out of this extremely talented Kiwi, as he's now had a year to learn the ropes and has already put in some decent performances, most notably his second place at Texas last year. Finally, 2014 IndyCar champion and Australian Will Power remains behind the wheel of the number 12. Now we're moving on to the 2 biggest teams on the grid for this year, each running 4 full-time cars and each running a 5th for the Indy 500. Chip Ganassi Racing is of course one of those teams. In car number 8, it's Marcus Ericsson, coming back for his 3rd year with the team. Again, another member of the European Formula Expat gang. Since leaving Formula 1, Ericsson has already shown plenty of promise, having picked up 4 podiums, 2 of which were wins in his short time in IndyCar. Expect more from him this year. Next up, it's an absolute legend of the sport. It's 6-time champion and winner of the 2008 Indianapolis 500, Scott Dixon. What more can I say other than that he's still driving the number 9 and he's probably one of the best drivers in the world. Moving on to the driver of the number 10 and probably one of the most impressive young drivers around right now. Alex Palou won the 2021 IndyCar Series Championship after only his 2nd season in IndyCar and his 1st season with Chip Ganassi Racing. Will he be able to defend his title? Only time will tell. The last of Ganassi's full-time drivers is 7-time NASCAR Cup Series champion Jimmie Johnson. This will be Johnson's 2nd season in the IndyCar Series after running a part-time schedule in 2021. His results weren't great, but this year he'll get to run the ovals, and with a bit of experience under his belt, perhaps he'll start showing a little more performance in 2022. Ganassi are also bringing a 5th car to the Indy 500. It doesn't have a number yet, but what we do know is that it will be driven by IndyCar veteran Tony Kanaan. He'll surely be looking for a win in his 20th start at the 500. The final team we're going to be covering today is Andretti Autosport. Andretti are using a couple of different banners this year, including of course Andretti Autosport, Andretti Steinbrenner Autosport, and Andretti Herta Autosport with Marco Andretti and Curb Agajanian. In car number 26, it's one of the rising stars of the sport and someone who will probably be in championship contention this year, Colton Herta. This man is going from strength to strength, and if you've been watching IndyCar these last few years, I'm sure you'll agree. In car number 27, it's 2016 Indy 500 winner Alexander Rossi. The last few years have proven slightly difficult for Rossi, as bad luck has stunted otherwise excellent form. He'll be looking for his first win and his first championship challenge since 2019. Moving over from Dale Coyne Racing is the Phoenix himself, Romain Grosjean. Grosjean proved himself as one of the standout drivers in 2021, ending his somewhat lackluster Formula 1 career after a horrendous crash at the 2020 Bahrain Grand Prix and heading stateside to race part-time in IndyCar. Last year, it seemed that a new spark had reignited his racing career, achieving 3 podiums in his debut year. Now he's in proper equipment and contending the full season, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he was a championship contender this year. In the number 29 Andretti Steinbrenner Autosport car, it's rookie Devlin DeFrancesco. Arguably, the choice to put Francesco in is slightly controversial, as Andretti had Kyle Kirkwood on their Indy Lights team, and he won the championship, yet he was passed up for Francesco, who finished 6th. I get the sense that there may have been a few exchanges of cash monies. Anyway, it'll still be interesting to see what this new Canadian driver can do in the car once occupied by outgoing, in both ways, Canadian driver James Hinchcliffe. Now moving on to the Indy-only car, the number 98 Andretti Herta Autosport with Marco Andretti and Curb Agajanian entry, which will be driven by Marco Andretti. Now, as a member of the Andretti family, Marco has of course fallen victim to the Andretti curse. Despite the fact that 5 members of the Andretti family have competed in the Indy 500, only Mario has ever won, winning in 1969, and no member of the Andretti family has ever won since. Marco will be looking to finally break the curse in his 17th attempt at the race.
And that is the IndyCar grid for 2022. With that done, it's time for some predictions, which, judging by my Rolex 24 predictions, will probably age horribly. Let's start with my prediction for Rookie of the Year. I think it will go to Christian Lundgaard based on his decent performance last year on the Indy road course and the fact that he has good equipment under him as well. Good driver, good car, it should be a great combination, and that's why I think Christian Lundgaard will be this year's Rookie of the Year. My pick for the Indy 500 this year, now while this is a very early call is Joseph Newgarden. He's won 2 titles, plenty of race wins to his name as well, and it's about time he won a 500, plus Penske are probably due another win anyway. Now we'll go over some other predictions I have for this year's championship before I pick this year's champion. First of all, I think Christian Lundgaard will score at least 1 podium. I think Romain Grosjean will also get his first IndyCar win. I also think that of the 2 Meyer-Shank drivers, Helio Castroneves will outperform Simon Pagenaud in the drivers' standings. Finally, I think that Jimmie Johnson will score his first IndyCar top 10, and that the most likely place that he will score this top 10 is at one of the oval events. Now for the championship prediction. I think the recent youth movement in IndyCar will continue, and Colton Hertel will win the championship, or at least be in the championship hunt. I think Scott Dixon and probably Newgarden will also be in championship contention as well, and they will be the main drivers taking the fight to Herter, but I think it will eventually be the Andretti driver that comes out on top. But what do you think? Comment below. I do actually read them all, and I will most likely respond to you, so you may as well say something. Also, the more comments on each of my videos, the more it helps the channel grow, as does liking and subscribing, all of which would be very much appreciated. You know the drill with the socials by now, but anyway, until next time, goodbye.